What happens when you create an agent built to change the game, but the game refuses to change with him? This is the story Riot told with Harbor, a controller unlike any we'd seen before. No cloud-shaped smokes, no gimmicky teleporting. Rather, he's a waterbender, like a character from Avatar, manipulating it, riding it, and shaping the battlefield like a tide. When he launched in October 2022, Riot made one thing clear: this wasn't just another agent. Harbor was supposed to redefine how teams took space in Valorant. They called him the Master of Water, with abilities that moved, curved, and flowed. From a bulletproof bubble, a moving wall, to an ultimate that pulsed through terrain and stunned enemies like an underwater quake. It all sounded poetic, like they were handing us the keys to a new kind of strategy that didn't need more rigid setups. Harbor was here to help us lead the charge. However, all that promise went down the drain the moment he stepped into Valorant. His abilities sounded good on paper, but in reality, they were nothing more than a wet tissue. So in this video, we will uncover why Harbor is a complete failure in Valorant, and how he had the potential to break the game. When Riot introduced Harbor, it wasn't subtle. His debut in Episode 5, Act 3 came with cinematic flair, a thundering backstory, and a unique moveset. This wasn't another initiator with a drone or some duelist trying to break the sound barrier. Harbor was a controller, but not in the way we'd come to expect. His pitch was different, mobility and fluidity over anchors and angles. He wouldn't hold space, but rather he'd guide you through it. You see, Harbor's abilities play differently from every other controller. A controller's main goal, as the name suggests, is to hold an area and allow your team to control it. Harbor, on the other hand, takes control and runs with it, almost literally. His entire kit allows your team to take control away from your enemies and put it in your hands, with abilities that allow you to block off entire lines of sight and prevent your team from getting shot at the same time. Seemed like a dream combo. You weren't just dropping a smoke on Haven like every other controller, you were carving a path through it. Cascade is a moving wall that pushed forward like a riot shield, allowing safe passage for your team through a narrow corridor. Additionally, High Tide gives you a huge bendable barrier that can spread across huge regions of a map, and even loop around to make an enclosure. Enemies couldn't even shoot through this wall, and were immediately slowed if they tried to walk past it. His smoke, Cove, is a water bubble that looks like your traditional smokes, that you can't shoot through. An ability that sounds too good to be true, and a perfect tool for diffusing spikes safely. Finally, Reckoning. His ultimate is a pulse that sweeps across the terrain, tagging and stunning enemies hidden behind cover. In theory, it was a dream, pressure without line of sight, an ultimate with unlimited potential to catch enemies off guard and let your whole team know exactly where they are. Everything about Harbor screamed change, a controller who enabled aggression. He was built to shift the tempo of a round, to turn tight chokes into walkable lanes. He didn't want to slow things down, he wanted to bring the entire team forward. Unfortunately for Harbor, his abilities lack any real impact and are comically underpowered. Let's start with High Tide, his signature. You get one long wall, bendable mid-cast, that can block vision and slow enemies who pass through it. Visually, gorgeous. Functionally, inconsistent. His wall does not do nearly enough to allow it to be an actual issue to enemies. Unlike Phoenix's or Viper's walls, High Tide doesn't do damage to your opponent or give them a temporary vulnerability. All it does is slow enemies who walk through it. And for a game like Valorant, it isn't nearly enough. It can be easily countered by a plethora of blinds available in-game or by mollies thrown through it. Additionally, going through his smokes slows you and your teammates down, making you just sit inside waiting for your reckoning. A Phoenix can easily counter the wall by throwing a molly and his flash through the wall, and even force your teammates through your own wall, immediately gaining the upper hand. Ironically, fire ends up beating water in this interaction. Cascade sounded too fun when it first dropped. You send a rolling wave forward, blocking vision as it moves, but it requires line of sight deployment, making Harbor's position obvious every time he uses it. What's even worse is the fact that the wave stops. It's not infinite, you can't push with it across long sightlines like C-Long in Haven or Breeze mid. It's a shield, but only part way. To add to that, the Cascade is so big that it can block the vision of your team pushing as well. ISO has a similar ability, Contingency, which is a shield smaller in size and goes down a hallway faster, making his pushes more aggressive than Harbor's while being less risky. Cove, the bullet-blocking orb, sounded broken on paper, a smoke you can't shoot through. Imagine planting behind it, diffusing inside of it and clutching with it. But like we said, it was too good to be true. All it takes is 13 shots from a Phantom and 12 from a Vandal to break the bubble and leave you exposed to the opponent. The orb, which functions like a smoke, also has a glaring weakness. Every other smoke in the game can be cast from anywhere on the map, wherever you want them. Harbor has to be on site to deploy the smokes, which makes him a huge pain to actually defend an area with. Speaking of Reckoning, his ultimate also has problems. Firstly, it takes forever for the ultimate to ramp up and hit your opponents, giving more than enough time for everyone to move out the way. Secondly, the stun is short, and the damage it does is non-existent. And unlike Brimstone's Orbital Strike or Viper's Pit, Reckoning doesn't clear space, it merely asks your opponents to move. The fundamental problem wasn't that Harbor was underpowered, it was that he demanded too much from the players and offered too little in return. You had to draw precise walls, time exact placements, read enemy positions, and even then your tools didn't guarantee anything. You didn't block them, you didn't stop them, you just hoped to delay or misdirect. So what happened when Harbor hit the servers? Well, he disappeared. He immediately became the lowest picked agent in Valorant. His current pick rate stands below 1 at only 0.6%. From Iron to Radiant, ranked players just didn't touch him. Why? Because Harbor was designed for a version of Valorant that barely exists. A version where teammates swing off your wall's timing. A game where a coordinated push forms behind your Cascade. Where someone actually follows you through the site you just sealed off with a bendy wave. But in solo queue, that is impossible to achieve. You wall mid, your duelist peeks B. You cove the spike, but your sage runs the other way. You ult for a retake and suddenly realize you're the only one pushing. Harbor needs team play, and the average ranked match gives you none of it. Even in pro play where coordination does exist, Harbor rarely makes it into the meta. Teams stick with the classics, Viper on maps like Breeze and Icebox, Omen or Brimstone for tighter control. They trust agents who lock down space, who demand respect. Harbor can do none of that. And that's where the community settled. Not in hatred, not in outrage, but in shrugging disappointment. Harbor wasn't trolled, he wasn't roasted like Euro used to be. People didn't meme on him endlessly, they just forgot him. And in a game like Valorant, where agents live and die by presence, silence can be the loudest verdict of all. What sucks is that Harbor could have been a great agent. With the right buffs, he can easily become a top-tier agent and maybe even meta-defining. To fix Harbor, we need to tweak his abilities just enough to make him a force to be reckoned with. Starting with Cove, right now it feels like a gamble. One magazine and it's gone. But if the smoke stayed active even after the shield breaks, it could serve its purpose and delay defuses, protects teammates and hold map presence longer. Letting him deploy it globally, like Omen or Brimstone, would make him more reliable across the map, not just in the fight he's physically present for. High Tide punishes the very teammate it's meant to support. The self-slow disrupts timings, discourages aggression, and makes entry plans fall apart mid-push. Removing that penalty instantly improves his synergy with duelists. A faster cast speed and cleaner visuals would tighten up his site execute potential, while extending Cascade's range or giving it minor disruption effects would help him contest territory more meaningfully. Harbor needs to feel like a tool for commitment, not a flexible trick that gets ignored. Reckoning struggles to matter in its current state. Faster stun pulses, tighter tracking and decay pressure would transform it into a zoning threat. Add a brief reveal on affected enemies and suddenly the ult is setting up kills. If Riot decides to stop buffing ISO for the 500th time and change up Harbor with these buffs, it would help him take space, hold it, and punish enemies for challenging him. Harbor was supposed to change the way Valorant was played, a controller who didn't just stall pushes but led them. Fluid, aggressive, built for movement. But the game, it never moved with him. He didn't flop because he was broken, he flopped because the reality of Valorant never matched the vision Riot sold. In a game built on tight timing and fast trades, Harbor asks for too much and gives back almost nothing. With the right buffs, he could work. Give him the tools and Harbour might finally crash into the meta the way Riot always imagined. Until then, he's not a game changer, just a cool idea that never landed.